If you've ever wondered what would happen if the 3 biggest idiots in your town ended up with superpowers, then WONDERfools on Netflix is just the drama for you. Today, I'm diving deep into how a train wreck, a sap, and a royal nightmare use their superpowers to protect the people they love. I'm doing things a little differently with my reviews moving forward. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'm going to start with a quick, spoiler-free review so you can decide if you'd like to watch. After that, I'm going to go deep into spoiler territory and break down the reasoning behind my ratings. Alright, let's start with the spoiler-free breakdown. In terms of entertainment value, this show is an incredibly fun watch. The comedy is on point, and the fast pacing means you'll never get bored. 5 out of 5 for entertainment. As for originality, the concept of misfit superheroes combined with the very specific and strange nature of their powers make this show feel fresh within the genre. 5 out of 5 here as well. Then there are the standout performances. All of the actors do an amazing job, but Park Eun-bin absolutely knocks it out of the park. Just watch the way she moves, and you will know exactly what I mean. Another 5 out of 5. Now when it comes to plot, here's where the show starts to waver. There are plot holes, loose threads, and some superpower rules that don't make sense or flat out contradict themselves. 3 out of 5 for this category. Looking at character development, you won't find a ton of growth in this show. Outside of developing superpowers, the characters pretty much stay the same from beginning to end. It's not a huge problem overall, since they're fun characters as written, but it's an area where the show is lacking. 2 out of 5. The romance is another soft spot. There's just enough here to show you the leads are catching feelings for each other, but not enough bonding moments to actually make it land. 2 out of 5 for this category. Symbolism and themes are another weak spot. Don't go in expecting rich themes or layered writing. This is a what you see is what you get kind of a show. And it's one of the things keeping it from a perfect score. 2 out of 5. Visually though, the costume design is genuinely excellent. It doesn't just capture the late 90s aesthetic, it uses each character's wardrobe to tell us something about who they are. 5 out of 5. Before I give you my final score, I want to explain that I don't just average all the category ratings, because to me, some weigh heavier than others. So if the math isn't mathing for you, that's why. At the end of the day, WONDERfools has enough flaws to keep it from a perfect score, but its strengths carry it most of the way there. I'm settling on 4 out of 5 soju bottles. If you've already seen WONDERfools, stay with me. I'm about to break down exactly why each category landed where it did. And if you haven't seen it yet, bookmark this and come back after you watch to see if you agree. Alright, let's enter the spoiler zone. WONDERfools is set in 1999, right before the new millennium. If you were alive back then, you'll remember the Y2K panic. If you weren't, go ask your parents. It was a strange, uncertain moment in time, and it becomes the perfect backdrop for the show's chaos. The drama begins with our main character, Chae-ni, a 27-year-old woman with a heart condition who's just learned she doesn't have long left to live. Right away, you can see that she isn't a typical K-drama lead. She's known around town as a train wreck, and the show leans into it with her look. Chunky Manic Panic style red highlights, messy uneven buns, and oversized 90s layered clothing. Her aesthetic is a direct representation of her personality, and a huge credit to the wardrobe department. Knowing she's about to die, Chae-ni wants to spend her final days traveling the world. Only she has no money and her overprotective grandma won't let her leave the city. Right away, the show hands us stakes and personality. Park Eun-bin's performance is exceptional. She acts with her whole body. And just the way she portrays Chae-ni walking down the street tells us more than any line of dialogue ever would. From there, we meet her circle. First, there's Kang Ro-bin, Chae-ni's friend and a sweet, cowardly lion sort, nicknamed Sappy Sap because his feelings are so easily hurt. Then there's son Kyung-hoon, the town's royal nightmare. His wife bulldozes him. His daughter is embarrassed by him, and he spends most of his time ranting, lying, and spiraling into conspiracy theories. His relationship with Chae-ni is one of the funniest in the show, because their friendship is built on hating each other so much they respect each other for it. Which leads to hilarious lines, like when Kyung-hoon gets off the phone with his wife saying, "The kid I hate most in the world seems to be in danger. So hang up and don't wait for me. I'm busy." Right away, we've got characters and relationships that don't behave the way you expect. Together with her misfit friends, Chae-ni comes up with a not-so-genius plan to fund her travels. The trio stage a fake kidnapping and film a ransom video to send to her grandmother. Only things go wrong fast. Chae-ni's heart gives out while she's still tied up, and she dies. Now, Ro-bin and Kyung-hoon are left with a dead body and what looks like a kidnapping gone wrong. In a panic, they dump her at an illegal disposal site. And things spiral from there. At the dump, our bumbling duo runs into Lee-woon-jung, a civil servant by day who's really a telekinetic superhero. As a child, he was part of a secret program that experimented on orphans, giving them superpowers, including one child known as the Child of Eternity, who could come back to life after dying. The scientist behind it, Hyun-joo, wanted to study that ability to create his own immortality serum. After the program was exposed, he was arrested, but now he's back, operating under the cover of a cult. The remaining orphans all have powers, but using them is slowly killing them. Hyun-joo promises them a cure if they can find the so-called Child of Eternity. Woon-jung is also searching for that same child in the hopes of finding him before Won-do subjects him to more cruel experimentation. With Woon-jung, we see yet another example of how the wardrobe department uses clothes as part of the storytelling. At work, he wears glasses and an oversized suit, a style that makes him look like a kid dressed up like Clark Kent. It makes him feel less like a real bureaucrat and more like someone playing one, which is exactly what he is. The inciting incident kicks off when Woon-jung catches Ro-bin and Kyung-hoon trying to dispose of Chae-ni's body. In the panic, they drop her into a pile of sewage runoff at the dump, and she disappears. Ro-bin and Kyung-hoon dive in after her. Woon-jung calls the police, but when they arrive, there's no body. That is, until Chae-ni comes back. The sewage did more than just cover them in filth. Now resurrected, Chae-ni is completely healthy and can teleport. Ro-bin gets super strength, but only when his feelings are hurt. And Kyung-hoon sticks to objects, but only when he lies. The specificity and weirdness of these powers are hilarious, and it's one of the things that sets this show apart. But it's also where we start to see inconsistencies. Kyung-hoon moves around surfaces by alternating between truth and lies. But when he tells the truth to unstick one hand while crawling on a ceiling, the rest of him stays stuck. But theoretically, the moment he tells the truth, all of him should unstick and he should fall. Chae-ni's power has its own inconsistencies. We learn that the reason she originally came back to life is that as a child, She received the Child of Eternity's heart in a transplant. But her other power, teleportation, occurs whenever her heart rate spikes. According to the show, she always returns to where she departed from. But at the end, after she saves the day by teleporting an exploding blimp away from the city, she doesn't return for weeks, and everyone assumes she's dead. Her explanation is that she traveled too far this time for her powers to work. It doesn't really make sense. If she could teleport that far out, why couldn't she return? Even if she had to do it in stages. Instead of a plot-driven event, it feels like a cheap way to make us wonder if she actually died. There are also some loose plot threads. The other experiment subjects are all dying from the use of their superpowers, but Woon-jung doesn't show the same deterioration. We could argue that he's lived more quietly than the others and therefore not used his powers as often, but even so, you would think we would see some effects. And the same fate should be in store for Robin and Kyung-hoon, but that matter never even enters the conversation. By the end of the show, we still don't have a cure, and a second season seems unlikely, especially considering the first season nearly didn't air at all, due to a real-life tax scandal involving the lead actor Cha Eun-woo. So as it stands, we are left with a bunch of fun new superheroes who we have to assume are all going to die if they keep using their powers. It's not exactly the vibe I think the show was going for. When it comes to character development, the show is similarly uneven. Most of the characters don't fundamentally change. Kyung-hoon doesn't become more honest, Robin doesn't gain real confidence, and Chae-ni remains a hot mess right up until the end. And I genuinely enjoyed all of these characters' flaws. But it would have been great to see them keep their core, but also grow as individuals. The one real growth arc belongs to Woon-jung, who goes from isolated loner to someone who actually bonds with the group. But at only 8 episodes, that transformation feels rushed rather than earned. Some of his biggest emotional beats, like reconnecting with his mother or learning his childhood friend, the original Child of Eternity, is dead and that Chae-ni is walking around with his heart, are either underdeveloped or barely explored at all. Chae-ni is the one who carries most of the emotional weight, feeling awful and responsible for his pain. But both moments should have been the show's deepest emotional beats, and both get handled with extreme superficiality. As for the romance, that's another area that needed more room to breathe. The show gives us just enough to see Chae-ni and Woon-jung catching feelings for each other, but not nearly enough bonding to make it land. In all honesty, I don't think the show needed to force a romance here at all. It probably would have worked just as well as a story about a group of friends. As it stands, it feels half-committed. They should have gone all in on the love story or ditched it entirely. Finally, thematically, the show is fairly thin. And that's really what keeps WONDERfools from greatness. It's fun, creative, and often hilarious, but not especially deep. That said, what it does well, it does very well. And that's why I landed on a 4 out of 5 soju bottle rating. If you've made it this far, I want to know, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? And speaking of misfits, if you like chaotic characters who don't quite fit in, you'll probably like Fiona in my book Beneath the Destiny Stone. Here's a quick sneak peek of the audiobook. Enjoy!
Now I understood what this gala really was. A medieval networking party. And I was now a woman with a product to sell. The cloth merchant leaned forward as if he intended to share a prized secret.
I've some new cloth in stock. Saracen silk. Would look perfect with your eye colour.
I smiled and batted my lashes. I'd love to see it sometime. If the price is right, I'll be sure to tell my female customers. I'm Fiona, and I'll be opening my home as a tavern in the next few days. His eyebrows arched.
Is that so?
We both grinned as mutual commercial understanding flowed between us.